take the rump off. It's roughly, and it is pretty much a rough guide. 4 fingers from, this is what they call the H bones. This is the hip bone. This bit here. So just wrap my thumb around, and then I'll get roughly 4 fingers, and it works out quite nicely with the size of my hands. So it's going to be sort of round about there that I'm going to cut. I'm going to cut it up at a slight angle up towards, this is where the tail would come off, so I'm going to cut it up at a slight angle up towards the tail. And I'm not going to cut through that yet because the fillet goes a little bit further on. But what I'm aiming for is this is the hip bone. Inside here is a ball and socket joint for the hip, but then the actual femur runs through there, and there is underneath the ball joint there's another part of it that sticks out, and I want to miss that. I don't want that in the rump at all. But first of all, I'm going to take the fillet out because the fillet actually runs up a little bit further into here, and it's just the head of the fillet. I just want to take that off with it. So I'm going to start down here. I'm just going to remove this bit here. And you can see this is like the main artery or vein, I don't know which one it is, that runs through. So it goes right the way through up here, goes into there, and then it goes inside, and it runs right the way up inside. I'll show you when I take this bit out, inside the leg. It's the main artery that runs down into the leg. Just so I can see. So we see the fillet's quite expensive. I don't really want to lose any, but also I don't want to spoil it by cutting it where it shouldn't be cut. So if I get rid of some of these bits off the top, I can see a bit better what I'm doing. So so I'm gonna take the fillet off. I'm going in between all of the vertebrae. You can see there's a curve on each bone. I'm going to follow that curve around. This part of the fillet here, this top bit is what they call the chain, and it's not actually a saleable part of the fillet. It all goes into mince, but I'm quite careful about getting it nice and clean off the bone because I want the bone really free, so I can see exactly what I'm doing underneath when I come to take the fillet right off. If I left bits in between there, then when I come down to the fillet, I'll be leaving bits of fillet on the bone, or I'd be slashing it, or whatever, because I wouldn't be able to see what I was doing. And then we cut round. This is the rest of the hip bone, or the rump bone here. The fillet sits across the top of that. It goes up to around about here, but it goes underneath this muscle, which is just a small strip, and you can see there it's just on a nice seam, just very gently cut there.
And there's a muscle going in like a V, right?
Yeah, it goes in sort of like that sort of shape. You can see it when I take it out. Just want to get rid of this again. Just get rid of this vein off the top of this so I can see what I'm doing. There you can see the main artery running into the leg there, and there's the other part of the muscle there. When we get down to this end, if we tend to lose the seam a little bit there, it's a little bit more difficult to follow.
What is this piece called?
I don't know. It's just I don't know what the name of the muscle is. It's just a little strip of meat that it doesn't have a particular name for a cut.
You use that for mince meat? Or?
Yeah, it will just go into mince. Some people. Just to sort of maximise profit when they're rolling up their beef, they might leave it on the top side, or they might leave it on, this is the top rump, and roll it up and sell it. Again, because it's sort of working with different textures, and it's you've got all this in there as well. It's just not very nice to leave on, I don't think. And again, it is fairly tender. You could casserole it quite nicely. Similar sort of texture to this piece here though, and again it's only a small piece, so for the sake of not mixing textures I tend not to use it for anything else. We can take these veins right out now.
So you're taking the artery out, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just going to strip that out in there. Then we can see better. That's it. That's been. Then we can get out the rest of our fillet out with one piece. Although this piece here is quite gristly on the end there, but I wouldn't.
Sorry, is it okay to go just to have a look inside?
So you can see you've got quite a heavy skin underneath there, like a silver skin.
Yeah.
But we wouldn't sell that as fillet anyway. But to take off the fillet as a whole, and then when it's prepped, we can square the end off. It just gives you maximum use out of the muscle. And I'm just going to follow this around.
I'm just going to go back over here.
Now each of these vertebrae now, it has like a flat, very thin, flat bone that comes up.
Right.
This is where we get the T-bone from.
Right.
Which is part fillet, part sirloin. And again, the actual main body of the bone is very, you can see there, and it's very hard. So I can get the knife on there and I can really protect it off nice and clean without any danger of a little bit of bone going onto the fillet. It just comes off really clean. This meat here is part of the fillet as well. You could actually follow really tight on that bone and the same the other side and bring that onto the fillet, but then it's just because you've actually gone underneath and then underneath again, it would just be like flappy, so there isn't really any point in trying to keep that on the fillet because it just makes the fillet look untidy. Then we get to here. This is just the tail of the fillet. And then we're on to the first of the ribs there. Follow this around a bit more. This is the hip bone, and the fillet follows that right the way underneath. When you can be quite firm with this, pulling it, although it's quite a soft meat, providing I wouldn't pull it from here, providing you sort of get a good grip around about where you're cutting. Some meats, when you're sort of breaking away, you need to be really careful of them falling apart or pulling apart. This one is quite good. We get that out there. Is.
That's the fillet.
That's the fillet. It's still quite a bit of work.
Let me see. Yes.
One thing I find that I still do, and it's quite amusing sometimes when I think about it, is when I was training, obviously I used to mark everything before I cut it, and even 30 odd years on, I'm still doing it, and I probably don't need to, but I don't know. I think it's just a habit more than anything, but it's not really a bad thing, I don't think. Okay, let's see how this. So I'm just splitting the. So the hip bone is here. The socket, the ball joint, you can see just about. You'll see it better in a minute. It's just in there.
Are you trying to cut in the middle of this?
I'm going to miss the ball joint.
Right.
And then then underneath the ball joint, the femur, there's another little bit that sticks out. You'll see in a minute, and I need to miss that as well. If I cut it too high here, then the meat that I leave on the rump is not saleable as rump.
Sellable.
Saleable. You can't sell it as rump steak. Because it's not tender enough, so you have to cut it off, and then it will just, because it's only small pieces, again it will just go into burgers and sausages or burgers and mince, so you would lose money. If I cut it too far this way, then again, if I cut it too far this way, then I'm leaving the rump steak is staying on here, and most of the end of all these pieces, like the top side, which is here, and the silver side underneath, most of the ends come off. They're sort of like they're separate muscles. Again, we'll see when we get into it. They're all sort of separate, so that all of that has to come off. So again, you're putting rump steak into the burgers and sausages. So it's quite a it's not an exact science, but if I can cut this, if I cut it right, I should miss the bone underneath, and I should hit a gland in the end of this fat here.
What kind of gland is that?
I don't know. They're just there's hundreds of them throughout the animal. Just
Okay.
So we've just gone through into the meat there.
Right. Okay.
So let's see how.
You mean you've gone through the bone?
Sorry, yeah, gone through the bone. Let's see how accurate.
So now it's quite easy to go through.
Just going to go through, and I've just clipped
Wow.
that bone, which is just what I want it to be.
Incredible. Alright. Wow.
And there, that's the bone that I wanted to miss, and I've literally just skimmed it, so that's
brilliant.
And there's the gland there.
Oh yeah, what is that?
You can just see it, that side there that I just wanted to.
Wow. So tell me about the meat.
So we got there's three primals. We call them primals, which is like a retail cut of meat, or a wholesale cut of meat. This is the top rump, what we call the top rump. That's this muscle here. You can't see it properly. That's part of it. These two bits here. This bit will come off. We call this the cap. Some people just skim that back, take the fat out, roll it back in. Again, you can see from the meat, it's just a totally different texture. You see how coarse that meat is compared to that one and that one there. This is the silver side. This is what they call the H-bone of the beef. It's just the end of the silver side muscle. All of this is just all small muscles that will all come off, and they will all go into sausage, into mince and burgers. And this here that you can't see yet, it's covered by the hip bone, is the top side on top.